Hello and welcome back to another video in the Complete Web Dev series. In this video, what we're going to do is we are going to do all of our actions for our to-do endpoints. So, we've stubbed out those. We will need to come back and secure those once we do our user login and token stuff. But for now, I want to just get some of our stuff working so we can see it adding stuff to the database and everything else and so you can see how sequelize works as well. So let's, without any too much hesitation here, let's switch over to the screen and get started. Now, if you're enjoying this, please, it helps me a ton if you will comment down below, if you will like the video, and if you will share it. That helps me tremendously. If you'd like to support me financially, you could do so at patreon.com/free skills. You can also leave me a super thanks below. All right, enough about promoting my stuff. So here we go. We are going to create a new branch, and what I like to do is check out what branch we're currently on and make sure I'm on main here, and I'm going to do git checkout -b v7. That will create a new branch on my local machine, but I need to push that up to the remote server so that you guys have access to it. So I will do git push set -upstream origin v7, and then we will do git push. We just did that. And so now we are ready to go. The other thing is we need to make sure that examp is up and running, because now we're using our database. So that's opt-lamp examp start if you're on Linux. If not, you will have to do that for your machine, which by this point you will have a good understanding of how to do that. But I just wanted to make sure that you do have it up and running. Next thing we'll do is let's just hop on over to another terminal tab here and do npm start. That will start up our server, and you can see that it syncs the database there. All right, so in this video, we probably only need one file open, and that one file go to API controllers and to-do controllers. Now, we've already stubbed these out, but these are just kind of fake. And what we're going to do is finish all of these, thanks to sequelize making the database so easy to work with. We can finish all of these in one quick video. All right, so what we're going to do here is, let's see. All right, you remember how we talked in the last chapter about promises and async and await? Well, because we're doing database calls, this is going to come into play. We need to wait for our database calls to be finished before we move on. And in order to do that, inside this get all, you know what, let's work on the create first, just so we can see something in our database. What we'll need to do is, instead of returning this function here, we need to make this function an asynchronous function. So we will put the async keyword there before that. And then what we're going to do is, let's just get rid of everything inside here just to make this easy to look at. And what we're going to do is say const, and we're going to do a destructuring here. And we're going to use a, oh, wait a minute. Let's see. I'm sorry. Let's set up a try catch block here. So we're going to do try, and then inside of here we're going to do a catch, and we're going to catch the error, and then we're going to, if there's an error, we're going to do a response.status, and we're going to give it a 422, and then we'll do a JSON, and we're going to pass in the error.errors. Okay, now this response 422, if we go to response codes, the response 422 is unprocessable entity, meaning there is an endpoint and they hit the correct endpoint, but there was just some problem with updating. So maybe something like, we had some sort of validation, that is not working or something in our model. This is probably an appropriate error message to status code to return there. But what we're going to do is, inside this try, we're going to try to add it to our database. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do const, and we'll say to do is equal, And then what we need to do here is use our await keyword, because now we're doing a database call, and we're going to use our to-do model, and on sequelize gives us a method that we can use called create. So that will be a method, and inside there we send it an object, and the object is going to have the values. So we're going to put name, and then we're going to use request.body.name. All right, and then we will use user ID. Now user ID for now, we're just going to put 1 there. Okay, and then completed, we're going to do request.body.completed. Okay, now that we've done that, let's go ahead and test this out. But before we do, we need to have a response. So what we're going to do is below this, let's just do yeah, let's just do a response.status, and we're going to use a 201, which will, let's look at 201. So 201 is a success. Anything in the 200 range is successful. 201 is what's used for created, okay? Often used for post and put requests. So this is a post request. So we'll use a 201.json. Now you could use a 200 or anything you want there. This is just going to be convention. All right, and then inside of this JSON response, let's give it a message, and let's tell them that they post. You know what? We don't need a message like that. Let's just do success true, and then let's pass back the to do like that. Okay, and that's it for the create. So let's go and try that out. So we'll go to Postman. And inside Postman, we want to go to to-dos, and let's look at our route and make sure we do this right. Let's go to routes, to-dos. So we need to post to the, to run the create, we need to post right to to-dos. So we're just going to get rid of this 1, 2, 3 here, and we're going to change this to a post. And then our body, we'll click on raw and then make sure this is set to JSON. And our body here is going to have a name, and this will be the name of the first to do. So we'll say learn JavaScript. All right, and then what we're going to do is let's look at our controller. So we need name and then completed. So in this case, we're going to say completed false, and that needs to be in double quotes there. All right, so now if I hit send, you can see that we got back a status of 201 created, and you can see that we got success true, and our to-do came back, and notice it has an ID. So because of that, I'm confident, it also has updated at and created at dates. I'm confident that this is in our database. So let's go now to our browser and just validate that. So we'll go to localhost.phpMyAdmin, and let's go to browse here. Actually, we need to go to our to-dos table, and now right here you can see our to-do came from our API called Learn JavaScript, and because we passed false, it's completed at 0. User ID is hard-coded to 1 right now, but we'll be updating that in a future video. All right, so we've done that. We can add another one here. Let's see. Let's go back to Postman. Let's just add a few of them. Let's add another one called Learn Node.js. All right, so that one's added. And let's add another to-do called Learn React.js. Okay, so now if I go to my database in the browser here, and we refresh, I have 3 objects here, or 3 rows in my database: Learn JavaScript, Learn Node, and Learn React.js. Perfect. Let's go now and figure out, let's do our endpoint to get these back from the database. So we're going to use our get all. So we haven't finished this, but the get all also needs to have an asynchronous call because we're going to be getting stuff for the database, okay? So we want to wait for that to complete before we do a response, okay? And so what we'll do here is, let's just, to make things easy, I'm going to empty this out, and then we're going to give it a const user ID, and this is going to be equal to 1 for now. Okay, and then what we're going to do is let's do const, and then we're going to destructure a call, and we're going to have count returned and rows returned to us, and we're going to do that from, we're going to do an await, and then we're going to use our to do, and then sequelize gives us a function called find and count all. Okay, find and count all. Now inside of there we can pass some objects, one of those being a where clause. In this where clause we can say, hey, I want user ID to be equal to, and then we can pass in user ID like that. Okay, then what we're going to do is it's going to await for this, and when that's done we're going to build out a response.status. In this case we're going to use 200, and then we're going to say .json, and then we're going to return our JSON object right in here. So first of all we'll do success true, and then we're going to do data, and that will be rows. Now this find and create count all returns it returns two things. It returns the count and the rows. So what we can do is I'm going to put that as total, and we'll put count right there. All right, so now let's go back, and believe it or not, this is all we need to do to get these. So that endpoint, if you look at our routes, is going to be a GET request to to-dos. So let's go to Postman, and we leave this the same, and now let's change this to a GET request. If we do that, now we get a status of 200. Okay, we get a status of 200, and if you look here, now we have success, and then in our data we have an array of objects, and each one of these is our to-dos, our 3 to-dos from the database, and it gives us our total amount that we have, which is 3. Perfect. Okay, so now that endpoint's working. Let's look at the other endpoints that we had in our controller that we need to account for. We need to do a find by ID, we need to do an update, and we need to do a delete. Okay, so let's do first the find by ID. We'll just do these kind of in order. Again, since this is going to be doing a database call, we want to set this as an async. And then I'm going to get rid of this here just to make it easy for me to read my code. And for now, let's do const user ID is 1. Now we're going to be updating all those user IDs in the next video. But for this one, we'll do const, and we'll do to-do ID is going to be equal to request dot params dot ID. Okay, now this is going to come from our params. Remember, because our route here has a / and then our ID. So that's where we're getting that from. All right, next thing we're going to do is we are going to set our, we'll do a const, and our to-do is going to be equal to await. We want to await for this to finish, to do, and then we have a find one method in sequelize that we can use. And this find one is going to take an object as a parameter, and we'll say where, and in here we're going to say where ID is equal to do ID, and where user underscore ID is equal to user ID. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to set up a default response, and we're going to say response is going to be equal to an object, and we'll say success false, and then we're going to say to do null. All right, then what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, if there is actually a to do, so if we returned a to do from the object, then we're going to update that response, and we're going to say response dot success is equal to true, and response dot to do is equal to do. Okay, once we've done that, then at the end here, all we're going to do here is do a response dot status. We're going to set that to 200 JSON, and then we're going to pass in our response here. Okay, so that is it for this find by ID. So let's test that out. Now that one, we need to go and we need to do one, todos/1, and hit send. And if we do that, we get to do true back, and then we get the one to do, and that's going to have the ID username, and this was learn JavaScript. So if I change that to 2, we get that one. If I change it to 3, we get this, and if I change it to 4, well, now we get success false and to do null because we don't have a fourth one with an ID of 4 in our database, okay? So that is working just fine. Let's go and let's try to do our update method, okay? The update method isn't going to be that bad. It's going to be a little bit more than the last one we just did. So again, this is going to be an asynchronous function here, async. I'm going to get rid of all of this here. And then what we're going to do is say const to do ID is equal to request.params.id. And then we're going to say user ID is equal to 1 for now. And then we're going to say const response is equal to success false. And then we're going to do message to do not found. Okay, that's going to be our default response. And then what we're going to do is say const to do is going to be equal to an await. We want to await before we do our response. To do dot find one. That's going to take an object here, and what we're going to do here is say where ID is equal to do ID and user underscore ID is equal to user ID. Then what we're going to do is outside of here, we're going to say if there is a to do, and then what we want to do is we're going to set up our values. So we'll say const vals is equal to, this is going to be an object, so we'll say name request.body.name, and completed is going to be request.body.completed. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to run to do dot update, and this will take vals, and then the second is going to be the param. So we'll say where, this will be another object, we're going to say where ID is equal to do ID. Okay, that will do the update. And then what we need to do is actually, after it's updated, we're going to reset this to do here. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to do another await. Well, we needed to do an await here as well. So we're going to await the update, and then we're going to do another await, and we're going to say, hey, to do dot reload. And then we're going to say response dot success is true. Response dot message is equal to do updated, and response dot to do is equal to, we'll pass back the to do. Then the only thing left to do is outside of this if statement, we're going to do a response.status. We'll do 200.json, and we'll pass in our response object there. So that's it. That should be updated. So let's go now and test this. If we look at our routes, the update one is a patch request, and it'll have an ID. So we're gonna, let's finish the first to-do task. We're not going to send in the name, but we're gonna set completed to true. And this is a patch, so let's try it. All right, so now we passed in completed, and this says now that the completed is true. So if I look in a database, let's see if that is true, and I'll refresh here. Then learn JavaScript now is completed, and these two are still ongoing. Okay, so that is good to go there. The last one that we need to do if we look, is our delete. So let's go now and do the delete method. Again, I'm going to just get rid of what's inside of here. I'm going to make this return function async. Use the async keyword. And then what we're going to do is set up const todo id is equal to request.params.id again. We'll set user ID equal to 1 for now. We're going to update that in the next video. And then we're going to say, hey, go ahead and make todo equal to, and we're going to use an await. And then it's going to be todo.find1 again. And here, we're going to do where ID is equal to todo ID and user ID is equal to user ID. Okay, and then we'll do a response. So our default response is going to be a false. So we'll do success false message todo not found. And then what we're going to say is if the to-do is found, then we're going to use an await, and we're going to say todo.destroy, and then we're going to pass in the where, and the where is going to be ID is equal to todo ID, and user underscore ID is equal to user ID. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say response.success is equal to true, and response.message is equal to todo deleted. Now this destroy method is given to us. This needs to be wrapped in an object here. Sorry about that. This is a method given to us by sequelize, and this is going to delete the method, okay? And this right here. All right, and then after this statement, we're just going to do a response.status, and we'll pass 200 to that, and then we'll do JSON, and we'll pass in our response object. So we'll save that. And if this works, that means our entire to-do controller and all of our routes and our to-dos are done. So let's go back to Postman. And first thing I want to do is I'm going to post a new one to to-dos. And let's create the name. And the name for this is going to be delete me. All right, and we'll set completed to false. So we'll hit send. And now you can see we got back a new to-do with ID of 4. And if I go to the browser and we refresh, we have this, and the name is delete me. So let's go ahead and try to delete that now. So let's go back to Postman. And remember, our route here was going to be delete verb on the /ID. So what we're going to do is we want to delete 4. So we're going to use /4, and we need to change this to a delete call. And we will hit send, and now we get back a status of 200 and with a message of success and to do deleted. So now if we go to the database and we refresh, we can see that that row is now gone. Now let's try to run that again and see what happens. Well, now it's already gone, so we still get a 200 back, but it says success false, to do not found. Okay, so now we know that our delete, update, find one, find all, and create are all done for to-dos. Now our API can handle all of our endpoints for to-dos. So this is pretty basic CRUD operations. The one thing is this isn't secure at all, and we don't, the user ID is hard coded. So in the next video, what we're going to do is start working on our user creation and tokens, so that we can start passing a token with the API, and knowing who they are and making sure that they have access and things like that. So in the next video, we will do that. If you guys are enjoying this, please comment, like, subscribe. Let me know what your favorite part of this series is so far, and hopefully you guys can start seeing just how quick and easy it is to create an entire API with Node.js and Express. It's actually a really cool technology, and I would feel comfortable using this on a live server. I mean, sequelize takes care of doing all of the SQL injection stops. I mean, there's other things you'd want to do, obviously, but this is pretty good. All right, guys, well, I will see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day.